Greetings to everyone listening to REGIOCAST, a series dedicated to those interested in regionalism and regional cultures. My name is Tomasz Skowron, and I invite you for another episode. And this time, we'll be talking about Moravia and regionalism in Czech Republic. And I have a special guest, Petr Konečný from Moravia, who is Vice President of Moravian Association Společnost pro Moravu a Slezsko and a political scientist at Masaryk University in Brno. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Before we jump into the politics, a bit about government and institutions, I have a couple of personal questions to you. So, on the website of your organization, Společnost pro Moravu a Slezsko, I read that you value regionalism, decentralization, and you would like to empower regional governments. You also advocate to boost regional culture and history seen from regional perspective, which is quite fair. For starters, I'd like to ask you about your membership in this organization. So, how long are you a member? Why did you choose this specific organization and not the others? And which of the principles do you value the most?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. Well, as Tomasz said, I'm from Moravia, and as a true Moravian, of course, I'm active in these activities, although it's unfortunately not that common that people are active in these public matters. But since my basically childhood, I knew about Moravia, about the public space, and I kind of try to put something good into it on my behalf. So in terms of any organization linked with Moravian movement, so to say, I was 18 years old when I joined the first organization, which was the Moravian National Community. Then I, continued with the Society for Moravia and Silesia. In fact, we try to, as a younger generation, to do things differently compared to the older generations of Moravians, Moravian patriots. So we try to make it less political in this sense, in this organization in particular, clever, so to say, in a modern way, to connect with influential people, to try to do something about our situation in Moravia, which we'll talk about in a minute.
So do you have any favorite principle of your organization? Like, I don't know, decentralization or another one?
All of it.
All of it.
Of course, for me, self-government is an essential part of democracy. I don't believe in any democracy without self-government. Basically, I take it as something interlinked, autonomy, democracy. So yeah, these things go together, definitely.
You mentioned a bit the politics, right, and the current status of politics in Moravia. So your past regional elections in whole Czech Republic, it includes Moravia, of course, and a couple of other regions. How did it go for regional movements? Is there any success, if we can say so?
Well, in terms of electoral success, it's not that good, I'm afraid. So basically, explicit Moravian patriotic parties, because there are a couple of them, they are to a certain degree successful on the municipal level. Basically, in some communities, we got mayors affiliated with these parties. On the regional level itself, in the Czech Republic, we got 14 regions, and Moravia is a region not administratively, but in terms of, let's say, cultural legacy, history, and we still perceive it as something alive. But in terms of administrative division, you get 14 regions, and unfortunately, in none of them, the Moravian parties have been successful in the past 20 to 25 years. So our organization is not political, so we still try to connect with politicians who are affiliated with various parties, but they are Moravian patriots and try to bring about a systemic change.
Is there any politician from those, let's say, centralist parties, right, or the parties that are focused on whole Czech Republic that you can cooperate with, that maybe can help you with some regional matters, or are they rather closed to the voice of regions?
I'd say on individual level, yes, we got a couple of very helpful, influential politicians and people in charge. Unfortunately, of course, the topic of Moravia, it's not their priority, so they pursue something else, various fields, but they are ready to help us, so that's good for us. On the other hand, in terms of parties and their secretaries, well, the doors are, let's say, not fully closed, but not that open, to put it diplomatically. So it's quite hard to find a way how to cooperate on the level of whole parties, because of course there is a fear that our ideas are kind of separatist or whatever. So they say, no, we have to deal, we have to take care about the whole country. I know, I think you get the same in Poland, right? So it's about the whole Czech Republic, not just Moravia. It's like, of course, we love Moravia. We would like to have a Moravian region, let's say, consolidated, but we have to focus on the nationwide topics.
Yeah, that's true. In Poland, we have a similar case. So probably for those more interested in the national security and national point of view, they would like to preserve the state as it is. They have a feeling that it might be taken away, and therefore they sometimes are afraid of regionalism, and they don't see the advantage, which is obviously empowering the whole country, right? So strong regions are definitely a foundation for a strong country. While weak regions, we know how it goes.
Yeah.
But that's good, and that's good that you try to keep the foot in the door, discuss as well with the centralist politicians. Okay, do you think this can change in upcoming years, or will it still be the case that you are somehow on the margin as regionalists?
Mm-hmm. Well, I strongly believe that yes, of course. And I'd say it's not just only about belief, faith, because there are some objective facts that you cannot skip, okay? Even though you try to ignore Moravia as much as possible. I'd say that especially it links to regional development, it links to transport infrastructure and things like that, where basically most parts of Moravia are underdeveloped, so to say. Okay, now I'd say that development as such is one of the key reasons why do we have modern state, modern politics. So we expect politicians to deliver it, and it's been not happening in Moravia in the last 30 years. After 1989, so I think this is quite a reason for that. Basically, something has to change in the future. At the same time, we got, as I said, very complicated structure of 14 regions, artificial regions around some quite small cities, and a lot of municipalities. The whole structure is, in one word, unconsolidated. So it's very costly, it's very expensive. We talk about hundreds of billions of crowns, Czech crowns every year. So I'd say, in fact, we got especially some economists who are based in Prague, in the capital, in Bohemia. They have absolutely no links with Moravia. They are kind of on our side, because they say, well, of course they are right, because we just need, let's say, 3, 4, maybe 5 regions or whatever number, and we have to spare money because we don't have money for normal investments. So for these objective reasons, facts, I think there will be a change in the future. Of course, I don't know when. I'm afraid that the Czech Republic is very, very lazy in reforming things. I know it sounds like a cliche. It happens everywhere nowadays, but still, we are really not capable of moving things forward. So I don't expect it to happen next year. Of course, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20 years. But there will be a day that it basically won't. This system won't work properly, and we will need to bring about a major reform where I hope new structure, including new definition of regions, will happen.
That was very interesting that you said that Czech Republic is not willing to reform itself, because from the Polish or even Silesian perspective, Czech Republic and Czechs in general are considered to be very pragmatic, which might not be 100% true, but that's how we see you from the north.
Yeah, we are, it's a merger of Slavics and German mentality, I'd say, how to put it. Of course, it's quite stereotypical. I'm afraid that we are pragmatic in some things, and I think we are very pragmatic on individual level. We like to preserve our families and serve them well, but in terms of public affairs, we are mostly quite clueless, unfortunately.
I see. So there is a quite big gap between generations, and as the world goes faster and faster, this gap sometimes occurs even between people that differ by 2 or 3 years of age. I'm quite sure that you try to reach to younger generations as well, and this younger generation will be then deciding who will be governing Czech Republic, and potentially will be deciding whether Czech Republic will be going towards decentralization, or maybe the capital will be still the strongest. How do you try to reach to them? Is there any way, or do you have any projects dedicated to young people?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very essential thing, of course, to reach out to youngsters. I'd say, well, yes, we try to enable things like YouTube and social sites. We are thinking about establishing a profile on Instagram, but unfortunately, we don't have any, sources for making a campaign dedicated to young people. So, and it's true that it's quite hard to pursue young people to follow, Moravian issues, because for some reason it feels kind of old-fashioned and maybe, quite conservative, traditionalists in a way, because there is this stereotype of Moravia as a place of wine, and people culture, folklore. Okay, so when you say Moravia, most people will, their first projection would be this, and then maybe they know something about the history and that Moravia was basically a very autonomous state within the monarchy and things like that. So I think we would need to find a way how to tackle this, how to bring the message to the young people. Maybe it could be more like fun, in the first step, and then something more serious. I'm afraid, although I'm let's say quite young, I'm not the expert on communication with young people, because when someone is too ignorant, it sucks. I'm sorry. So I try to talk about this with my friends, of course, to reach out to them, but I have to be very careful, because for them to talk about Moravia in a let's say political way is very negative for some reason. So they think this is just something toxic. So yes, this would be a huge step if we kind of break the barriers and reach out to youngsters, and they will join our ranks.
Why do you think that their attitude is so negative towards Moravia? Is it because of the education system? Is it because of the media or the public debates? Where do you find the root cause?
I think there are many reasons. I noted some of them in my previous speech, but I'd say, as you mentioned, of course, education system is very Bohemic centric. The situation in the Czech Republic is that we got Bohemia and Moravia, and the problem is that when you say Bohemian, well, Český in Czech is the same for Bohemian and Czech, so you have to you cannot distinguish these two very well. Of course, this country being quite small and without the kind of self-confidence, the governments really pushed hard to to put Moravia away because they thought it would endanger the whole country, which is of course a nonsense. But they made quite an effort to not put Moravia into schools. So yes, the problem is that we have to tell very basic information to people, kind of teach them about Moravia, which is of course very unlucky situation. Myself, I went through this education system, and what I heard in school, it's not only about Moravia, but for example the Germans and things like that. It was horrible, of course. So I believe there is a change happening, and there will be some space for Moravia as well, or let's say some local topics, including Moravia in school. And the young generation, it seems that they enjoy their lives in a different way that the older generation, and there are completely different priorities in terms of what they follow on TikTok, let's say YouTube Reels, on Facebook and things like that. So yeah, there is a couple of reasons why it's hard to talk to the young generation about Moravia, but it's not only about the young generation. I'd say it's the same problem with older generation, where in contrast, there is not this, let's say, cosmopolitan ignorance. I don't know how to put it, but basically Czech nationalism, and there are many people living with these fictional stories about the good Czechs, the bad Germans, the bad Austrian Empire, the bad Habsburgs, basically everyone around us, including the Polish. At some points in history are bad, we are good, and I mean this is kind of a thing I would like to overcome as a society in the time to come.
There is a lot of points that you mentioned, and if we were to switch our places, I think nobody would notice the difference. Or maybe you would need to change a couple of Czech Republic keywords to Poland, and it would be the same. So we face similar issues. But yeah, it seems that there will be a lot of challenges for the whole Europe, right? Because it's not only us that deal with nationalism. It becomes more and more common. You can see our common neighbor, right, Germany, where AfD becomes more and more popular, and the nationalists go back into the mainstream, which is quite unfortunate. So I have a last final question for you. What do you think is your toughest challenge in upcoming years in Moravia?
Yeah, well, I'd say there are many challenges, of course, every time, but we established a couple of initiatives with our organization, the Society for Moravian and Silesia, including, for example, the initiative called Moravia, an Earthly Paradise, which is a very lovely brand. And it's about reaching out to the representatives of the public administration in the Czech Republic, in Moravia, and we try to connect with them, and we try to deliver analytic materials about Moravia, about the regional development and things like that. I talked about that at the beginning of this session. And we also established a petition for establishing Moravian region or kind of administrative structure which would consolidate the Moravian territory. We got, as I said, many regions in Moravia and the Czech Republic as a whole. So we try to bring about at least some change. We also try to mark the border between Bohemia and Moravia as a, let's say, commemoration of the history, because there are the stones, the border stones placed there still, but we kind of try to say, hey, well, you're coming to Bohemia. Hey, cheers. Yeah, we're coming to Moravia. We try to do it in a positive way. And also, we've established a quite successful conference with experts from Moravia and the Czech Republic as well, as such, It's called Perspectives of Public Administration, where we discuss the economics, the development, infrastructure, and things like that. I think it's quite a success. So we, in this stage, we especially try to connect with as many influential people as possible, and to support them, support those who are for Moravia, to encourage them to speak up for Moravia, of course. Our sources are limited financially in terms of human resources, but we try to do our best.
You mentioned changes in administrative division of the country. An interesting question that came to my mind is, it's a bit Silesian perspective, but there is a Moravian Silesian county, right, in Czech Republic. What do you think would happen to that region? Would you create a separate region for Silesia? Would you make it part of Moravia? Would you give it back to Poland?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are the Society for Moravia and Silesia. I talked mainly about Moravia, but of course the story goes also for Silesia, so we don't lose it on our minds, because we love Silesia as well. The thing is that, as you know, historically, this division happened when part of Silesia became a part of the Habsburg monarchy. And nowadays it's part of the Czech Republic. There was a huge controversies about the Čechin part in the past, and the whole region around Ostrava, okay, the Ostrava agglomeration metropolitan region, it's a, let's say, bordering region. So I would definitely respect that characteristic. I absolutely understand why people in Ostrava doesn't want to have government in Brno, in South Moravia, so to say, because it's a quite different region in a way. So I would respect it. I don't know, I'm not the lawmaker, so I don't make the new structure. I just put forward some hints to those who decide on these things. And in the reality of integrating Europe, Central Europe at least, Ostrava is somewhere between Moravia and Silesia in Poland. Okay, so this is something we have to respect. I know that you get some friends in Ostrava and we talk to them, so I think they would understand this perspective as well. It's a very interesting region in that, as I said, it's kind of bordering region. So it's partly Moravian, partly Silesian. I'm not sure if it's more Moravian or more Silesian. I would say also for some historic reasons it's more Moravian, in fact, and the way how people, the language and such. On the other hand, there are many people who understand Silesian and they understand Polish. And basically they live in, let's say, Ostrava, Bohumín, and they go shopping to Poland, or the Poles go shopping to the Czech Republic. Okay, so over the border. So I think that's a great case of cooperation, of organic, natural cooperation, interchange between people and places. So this is something I would like to preserve. I don't want to have Moravia is an enclosed, country with barbed wire on the borders, no migrants from Bohemia or Silesia or whatever. So yeah, I respect it, and I hope they will cooperate with us, because historically that was one of the reasons why the Moravian movement was not successful, because there was this competition between Brno and Ostrava, and they didn't support our ideas, and they were quite looking to Prague to protect them against Moravians. Well, I think it's not that clever in fact, but I just hope that we will cooperate more. We will find a way how to go the same way.
And with that positive accent, our hopes, I think we can head towards the end. So thank you very much for your inputs. I keep my fingers crossed for Moravian movement all the time, for all the organizations that you have. And thank you very much for being today with us. And thanks to everyone who was listening to our REGIOCAST.
Yeah, thank you very much. And please make Moravia great again.
Of course.
Cheers.